Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you might not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. They make it super simple. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with coverage options tailored to your choices. Plus, you'll see which discounts you may qualify for, like the online quote discount or savings for paying in full. In fact, 99% of Progressive Auto customers earn at least one discount. See if you could save when you switch to Progressive. You'll feel good about making a savvy choice. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little extra cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Hi, welcome to Vanished Voices. We're your hosts. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Shannon. Hey, quick ask before we start. If Vanished Voices matters to you, a rating or review is the most powerful thing you can give us right now. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, wherever you're listening. It takes seconds and it pushes these stories to people who need to hear them. YouTube listeners, please subscribe and hit the bell. Each reading means the world. Thank you.
I want you to picture something for me. It's the evening of November 20th, 2012. The night before Thanksgiving, you're standing on West Main Street in Charlottesville, Virginia, this stretch of road that kind of serves as the heartbeat of the city. You've got the Amtrak station right there, the pedestrian mall just up the block, University of Virginia students heading through on their way to wherever they're going. It's one of those smaller cities where people recognize each other, where faces are familiar, where you feel like you know your neighbors even if you don't. It's getting cold out, getting dark early, the way November does. But there's this energy in the air because tomorrow's Thanksgiving. People are wrapping things up, heading home, making plans. And right now, at about 5:40 in the evening, a 19-year-old woman is stepping out of her apartment on Harris Street. She's been getting ready, taking her time with it the way she always does, because if you knew her, you would know she never left the house looking anything less than put together. She leans into the living room where her roommate is sleeping on the couch. She wakes her up just enough to say, "Hey, I'm heading out. I'll be back later." She's got a date. And honestly, life is good right now. Maybe better than it's ever been. She's got her own place for the first time. She's got a job. She's taking classes at a cosmetology school because she wants to do hair professionally. She's 19 years old and she's building something. Tomorrow, she's planning to surprise her stepsisters for Thanksgiving. She's going to show up at her mom's new house, the whole thing. She's really excited about it. As she heads out into the evening, she makes her way towards downtown, towards Main Street. Along the way, around 6:35, her stepsister, Kiara, happens to spot her just by chance. She's walking near the intersection of 4th Street and West Main. She's on her phone, mid-conversation with someone, and Kiara hears her say she'll be there in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. She keeps walking westbound on Main Street, heading towards the Amtrak station. And that's it. That's the last time anyone can say for certain they saw her. Her phone goes silent, calls start going straight to voicemail. She doesn't come home that night. She doesn't come home the next morning. Thanksgiving comes and goes, and the surprise she had planned for her stepsisters, she never shows up. Her name was Sage Smith, and tonight we're going to talk about what happened, or what we think happened, on that November evening in Charlottesville. Because this case, it has secrets, it has people who aren't telling the truth, it has twists that I genuinely did not see coming when I first started researching it. And after more than 13 years, there are still more questions than answers. Okay, so before we get into what happened that night, and we are going to get into it, I want you to understand who Sage was, because I do think that matters. Sage was she was somebody's granddaughter, somebody's sister, somebody's best friend. And the life that she built before that night in November, it wasn't handed to her. She earned every bit of it. Sage was born Deshad LeQuinn Smith on December 13th, 1992, in Charlottesville, Virginia. Her parents were Latasha Dennis and Dean Smith. And from the very beginning, things were not easy. Her parents split early on, and her father ended up incarcerated on a drug charge. Both parents would eventually remarry, so Sage grew up with this big, extended, blended family, stepbrothers, stepsisters. But the home situation with her mom was unstable enough that Sage was primarily raised by her paternal grandmother, a woman named Lolita Smith. Now, everyone calls her Cookie, and I love that.
I know, that's cute.
And you need to know about Cookie because she's the backbone of this entire story. Cookie raised Sage in Garrett Square, which is an affordable housing complex in one of the poorest neighborhoods in Charlottesville. They didn't have a lot of money, but Cookie was the kind of person who showed up for her community. She served on the Tenants Association. She was part of the residential patrol. She poured everything she had into raising Sage. And the two of them, they were inseparable. And that bond is going to matter later. Remember Cookie. When Sage was about 12, she and Cookie moved to the Fifeville neighborhood in Charlottesville. And that's where Sage met one of her closest friends, a girl named Shakira Washington, who lived just 2 doors down. The two of them became basically like family. Eventually, Sage was returned to her mother's care, but that didn't last. Latasha was deemed unfit, and Sage ended up in the foster system.
Do we know why she went into the system versus being returned to Cookie?
I'm not sure. I couldn't find that.
Okay.
Because I wondered that too.
Yeah.
Especially where she had lived with Cookie for so long.
Right.
Prior.
I think that would be like who knows? I would think it'd be an easy fix, but maybe something with health or something was going on with Cookie at the time.
Possibly. To my knowledge, Cookie's still alive today.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
I take back my comment.
Well, it might have been some health.
Yeah.
Something going on then. For Sage, though, that was instability on top of instability. You're a kid, a new teenager trying to figure out who you are, and the ground keeps shifting underneath you. And Sage carried that with her. But here's the thing about Sage, and everyone who knew her always says this. She had this light, this energy that you couldn't ignore. Her grandmother said her smile could light up a room, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. People described her as incredibly charismatic, a total social butterfly. She was a dancer. She used to make YouTube videos of herself dancing back in high school. She was passionate about fashion. She took real pride in how she presented herself. Like she was not leaving the house unless she looked flawless, exactly how she wanted to. And that was always non-negotiable. She's described as funny and warm and the kind of person that everyone wanted to be around. Now, while Sage was in her teens, she came out as transgender. She identified as a woman and described herself as gender fluid. She didn't like labels. She just wanted to be herself. And here's what's interesting. Her family had known from a young age. Most of them were just waiting for Sage to feel comfortable enough to say it out loud. And when she did, for the most part, they accepted her. But not everyone. Her father, Dean, when Sage came out to him, he told her he didn't want any contact with her anymore. And that crushed Sage. It crushed people in the family who saw it happen. Eventually, Dean's youngest son pulled him aside and basically said, "Look, You've always told us to be happy with who we are. How can you say that and then act like this?" And that did get through to him. Dean reconnected with Sage and they started rebuilding this relationship. But even with her family's support, being an openly transgender woman in Charlottesville was not easy. Sage dealt with harassment, she dealt with bullying, and because of that, she was careful. She made a rule: she wouldn't walk home alone. She wouldn't go somewhere with someone she didn't know. She was aware of the risks that came with being who she was, and she made sure she took precautions. And that detail is important. She was cautious, she was aware, she didn't take unnecessary risks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's common
Mhm.
for many transgender individuals. They have extra awareness that they have to maintain.
Absolutely.
Just, I mean, and I'm assuming she's a minority. So to have
She
now
was
she's
Black.
like double minority.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, she's always, again, in coming out of the system, she's always on alert.
Right. In 2011, Sage became the first person in her entire family to graduate from high school. So think
Wow.
about that. After everything,
That's amazing.
yeah, the foster system and then everything else, she managed to graduate.
Hmm.
And then by March of 2012, with some assistance from the foster care system, she moved into her own apartment on Harris Street.
Now that's interesting. I always hear foster care, just you age out and you're figure it out. So this is nice to see that their system there at least
Mhm.
helps place kids that have aged out of the system into their own housing. Because I know I know statistically the majority of people that are unhoused are kids that have aged out of the foster system, which is wild.
And so sad.
That, like, how do you expect 18? You are very much still a kid,
Right.
whether legally you can vote or whatever. So it's always just amazing to me that that ends are support for you. Go figure it out.
And it's not like you have the ability to
No.
make money
No.
to invest in where you live.
Yeah, like not first month's rent, current month's
Exactly.
rent, a security deposit. Like, come on.
Mhm.
That is not easy. And that wasn't easy for me. And I definitely did not. I had a very privileged lifestyle, not what she has had to overcome. And I know that was hard for me to come up with
Yeah.
back when I first got an apartment. So I can only imagine how difficult it would be for her. So I'm glad to see that the system helped her, at least in that regard.
Right. And I don't know exactly how they helped.
They
but
probably have some type of fund that
that would
assistance programs
yeah.
that helps kids who age out. Because I'm like, again, I always hear horror stories of you're 18 now, go figure it out. And there were, they stopped placing them with families. So it's really, I think, only if the family that they're with chooses to let them stay on, even though they're going to lose the benefit of the payment that they get for keeping them.
Mhm. You would think they could get that benefit for the next
One would think.
little bit, but so she got an apartment on Harris Street, and it was her first real place. She invited Shakira, who was that childhood best friend, and another friend named Aubrey Carson to live with her. The three of them turned that apartment into their own little world. They called it, and I think you're going to love it, the Dollhouse Mansion.
Totally love it.
Yep. They had pink walls, and they'd host parties and just live. For the first time, Sage had a space that was hers. She got a job at a hair salon, sweeping up hair, making appointments, the entry-level stuff, but she had a plan. She was enrolled in cosmetology school. Her dream was to do hair professionally. And then, just weeks before she disappeared, Sage changed her gender on Facebook from male to female. It might sound like a small thing, but it wasn't. It was public. It was somewhat permanent in our social media world. It was Sage telling the world, "This is who I am." Her grandmother said she'd never seen Sage happier. She was living her truth in her own apartment with her friends, chasing her dream. At 19 years old, everything she'd been through, Sage Smith was finally in a place where things felt right.
So was she actively living as a woman from the time that she told her family? It was just the Facebook status she hadn't changed?
It sounds like she was in a gender fluid space until
So meaning that for some people, she was still dressing as a man.
I believe
And then
so.
other people who she was comfortable with knew that she was
Mhm.
actually identifying as, okay.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, it is curious that it's so quickly after she publicly changes her status on Facebook that then
Mhm.
she has this horrible thing happen to her.
Right. I think that's why it feels even bigger
Mhm.
because
I mean, now it feels targeted. You know, we're not
exactly.
even, I don't even know yet. And it already it's starting to feel targeted.
Yeah, I really do think it was related to that. Not specifically the Facebook gender change, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, because now I'm in my head spinning like, okay, and I'm assuming gender fluid, she was probably, did it say if she was attracted to men or women, or was just that the
She was
fluidity?
dating men.
She was, okay.
Mhm.
So,
And most of them were closeted,
yes,
which,
also feeds into the narrative.
yeah.
Yeah, because now I'm already going down the road of, was it somebody who she was dating? But I'm wondering if she was presenting herself as her dead name, former
Mhm.
self, publicly, were they trying to, did it ever, did it say anything about, well, you know what, let's just get into it. And then maybe I can answer my own questions. Because now I'm going a little deep dive and we haven't even gotten anywhere yet. So let's focus on the story.
Okay. So let's move to the night of November 19th, 2012, one day before Sage disappears. The girls are throwing a party at the Dollhouse Mansion because it's Shakira's 19th birthday. Music's going, people are over, it's a good time, friends celebrating. And then someone shows up who wasn't invited. A girl arrives at the apartment and she's looking for a fight. She's got beef with one of Sage's friends over a guy, and some of the sources say it was beef with Shakira. And Shakira is on record saying she didn't know who this girl was and it felt bizarre.
And Shakira's a girl.
So, in some of the reporting, it says that both of her friends
Are transgender?
are also
Okay.
transgender.
Okay. That makes sense.
But I don't have that 100%.
Okay.
But it was in quite a few things I read. But her and Shakira met when they were so young. And so I don't know
Right. Because then I was like, oh, wait, was she?
if they connected maybe because they were both in that path.
Transitioning. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Because now I'm like, okay, so they were both.
It sounds like Aubrey was, but
Okay.
I don't know any of her background.
Okay.
Yeah. So this girl comes and she doesn't want to talk about what's happening. She's really there for a fight. The situation escalates, it spills outside, and Sage, being Sage, gets involved. She's loyal. If her people are in something, she's in it too. And I guess when the fight spilled out outside, there was a car full of other people waiting, and they all jumped in. So it went from something like, let's go talk about this outside, to a bigger fight. And I don't have a lot of details about it, but I know Sage ended up in a physical altercation with an acquaintance named Jamel Smith.
Is Jamel a boy?
He is.
Okay.
I don't know if he was one of the ones in the car that came out to support this girl after. I wish there was more information about this because it sounds like it's important.
Yeah. And again, a fight to happen this soon to the disappearance, it has to be, again, connected.
Right.
And interestingly, you show up, you've got a beef over a guy. Why aren't you going to the guy? Why are you going to the girl? Like,
right.
But I mean, knowing the age group,
teenagers,
you always go after
right
the person. But I'm like, this again adds a little complexity to the situation. Unless this girl also is transgender, then okay, like I don't know. It's interesting.
I do know separately, because we'll get into it, but the guy that Sage had been dating had a girlfriend who didn't know he was cheating on her and with someone who's transgender. So I don't know if this is the same sort of situation where they're meeting people who want these encounters and then
but living
girlfriend
there,
finds out somehow and comes over.
Well, because you probably see text messages, of course, 2012, but
no,
seeing stuff come through that doesn't match up. Yeah, you're still going to go at, like, again, at 19, you're going to go after the other party, not the person who's actually the culprit.
Right. Police do get called to this party around 11:20 that night. Jamel files a report saying that Sage damaged his car, but nobody's arrested. The officers leave. The party is effectively over at this point, and the night winds down, but the tensions don't. Jamel tweeted later that night, quote, "Been disrespected to the point of no return." Which,
right, because I'm guessing you got beat down by a girl.
Mm-hmm. And aside from that, after everything went down, Shakira calls some friends in Norfolk, Virginia, which is about 3 hours away, and asks them to come pick her up. They do the next morning, and she just leaves.
That's weird.
Well, according to Shakira, the reason was that Sage was upset with her. Sage felt like Shakira should have had her back during the fight, should have stepped in, and she didn't.
Oh, so the girl comes to fight you.
Mm-hmm.
Your friend sticks up for you, but you don't
Right.
engage. So yeah, I would be mad too.
So we've got some friction, and Shakira...
Although why you need to call friends 3 hours away is a little...
Right, because it feels...
You don't have friends
like,
15 minutes away?
Right. And maybe because it is now the 20th is the day before Thanksgiving. So maybe that's who you want to go spend Thanksgiving with.
Yeah.
Maybe she already
That's
had
true.
plans.
Yeah. Okay. I
That's the
forgot
only
that
thing I
we're
can come
right
up
close
with.
to Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So Shakira walked out the door that morning on November 20th, which is the day that Sage disappears. The only person left in the apartment is Aubrey with Sage. Now it's the morning of November 20th, the day before Thanksgiving, and despite the drama from the day before, Sage seems to be in decent spirits. She calls her dad, Dean, to congratulate him on the anniversary of his release from jail. She asks him for a little money, and sources go back and forth on what it was for. Some say maybe getting her hair braided. Others say maybe a new TV for the apartment, just normal stuff. She's looking forward to Thanksgiving. We talked about how she was planning to show up at her mom's and surprise her stepsisters. Nobody knows that she's planning on coming, and she's excited about it. Her mom, Latasha, actually tries to reach Sage a few times through the day, calls and texts, but Sage doesn't respond to them.
So wait, did her mom know she was going to pop in and surprise everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Her mom was planning on her coming, but she had younger stepsisters.
Yeah, that she was going to surprise. Okay.
Yeah. Nobody thinks too much of her not responding. And I honestly don't know why she wasn't responding, because she did have her phone on her and she was active on her phone during the day. But she is busy. Her mom assumes she'll call back. By late afternoon, Sage is at the apartment getting ready for her date that night. Someone she's been talking to, they've been texting back and forth, making plans.
And this person was not at her party the night before?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to hold off on telling you who this person is for right now.
Come on.
Because who they are and what we eventually learn about them is a huge major piece of the story. And I think it hits harder when you hear it the way that Sage's family heard it, piece by piece, after she was already gone. What I will tell you is this: Sage had met this person online. They'd been communicating for a little while, calls, texts, the usual. They had gone out previously. This wasn't a first date.
Okay.
On this particular evening, they had plans to meet up somewhere near downtown, close to the Amtrak station on West Main Street. So at 5:40 p.m., Sage wakes up Aubrey, who's asleep on the couch in the living room. She tells her she's heading out for her date. She'll be back later. Aubrey goes back to sleep.
Now, did she tell Aubrey who she was going to go meet?
She did.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so Sage walks out the door. We talked about some of what happened next in the beginning of the episode, but I will tell you what we've learned since then from Sage's phone records.
Okay.
Starting around 5:17 p.m., Sage and the person she's meeting are texting. She asks when he's leaving. He says he's already out, that he's at the Hampton Inn. They go back and forth for the next 20 minutes or so. But then something shifts. At 6:08, he texts her asking where she is. 4 minutes later, at 6:12, he asks again. By 6:27, he's frustrated. He sends a text that says, and this is paraphrasing, something like, "You stood me up, bye." Meanwhile, between that 6:18 until 6:37, Sage is on a phone call with a friend. So it's possible she didn't see those messages coming in. She's walking, she's talking, she's on her way. Now, her stepsister, Kiara, sees her at 6:35. Sage is on the phone, walking towards wherever she's going. They didn't plan on seeing each other. It was just completely random. She does hear
Did
Sage.
Kiara speak to her or just see her?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like you're on the phone walking. So
Yeah.
it's like the wave.
Oh, okay. So there was acknowledgement on both sides.
It sounds like it.
Okay.
They're close enough that Kiara hears Sage tell whoever she's talking to, she'll be there in 5 minutes.
Okay.
At 6:40, she's seen walking west on Main Street, and then nothing. A witness will come forward later, months later, in February of 2013. It's a woman named Monica who knew Sage really well. It wasn't just seeing something about her being missing and then calling in. They knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
She says that she saw Sage at the Wild Wings Cafe around 7 p.m. that night. And the cafe is right there, attached to the Amtrak station building. Monica says when she saw Sage, she was alone, sitting at the bar, like she was waiting for someone.
Well, and that's interesting because the person she's planning to meet, according to the text messages, he said he's at the Hampton Inn. That makes it sound like that's where they're supposed to meet.
So I would really like to know what time they were supposed to meet.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like he's like, "Where are you?"
Yeah.
Just a little bit after 6. So
Right.
that makes me feel like they were planning to meet up around 6.
Yeah.
Now, when she asked him, "When are you leaving?"
And he's like, "I'm already out. I'm at the Hampton Inn," which
Right.
I totally
So-
took as, okay, that's where they're meeting up at.
I can see it though as like I'm pre-gaming or
Yeah.
I was getting appetizers and
Yeah.
then I'll meet you. So maybe I'm already out.
True. Yeah, I'm like, I'm here and you know
Say-
where that is. I'm 10 minutes away or something
Exactly. Say we're planning to meet at the Wild Wings Cafe. You know that's a 10-minute walk, like you said. But I don't know exactly what time they were supposed to meet. It sounds like police do because they do have all these phone records. So I'm sure they have more than they're sharing. What we do know is that after that evening, Sage's phone never comes back on. Every call goes straight to voicemail. Now, when the phone is pinged, it pings off of a cell tower that was near her apartment. But Charlottesville is a small city. The towers aren't far apart, and so they don't take that data as conclusive. You look deep in thought.
I mean, yeah, I'm thinking.
When Aubrey wakes up a few hours later,
Oh, like, so do we know what time the phone got shut off?
it only says that 6:40
Mm-hmm.
is her last known communication. I would
And then the
assume-
Monica girl saw her at 7. Oh, well,
Right.
around 7.
Around
so that, I mean,
7.
6:40 could be around 7.
Totally.
Although I think that's still more like 6:55, or I would just say 6:40.
Right. And maybe she wasn't on her phone, but if
Yeah.
you're sitting there alone waiting for someone,
You're probably
on your phone.
yeah.
Yep. But I guess in 2012, they didn't still did most things.
Yeah, we had texting by then, so
Yeah.
Facebook would have been still kind of new-ish, but better than the I ate pizza posts, at least.
Right. Yeah. Sage isn't there when Aubrey wakes up. She tries calling. It goes straight to voicemail.
Which I think is interesting, too, that Aubrey tried to call her, because I'm like, if you know she's on a date, why would you call?
Right.
Unless part of that conversation was like, I'll be back by only a couple hours. So then, maybe that was when she left to tell her who she was going to go meet, that it was only supposed to be for a little bit of time.
That's kind of the feeling I get. So her trying to call is like, everything good?
Yeah.
But
Or maybe they did the normal girl code thing, like, hey, call me in case it's a bad, even though this wasn't their first date, but you always have the, hey, text me an emergency in case I need to leave. And then if I don't respond, then I'm ignoring your fake emergency.
right.
That type
And
of
things are fine.
girl code stuff.
Code. Aubrey assumes that Sage is staying out later, that the date went well, kind of like you said, and she goes back to sleep. The next morning, November 21st, Aubrey wakes up and Sage still isn't home. And now she's worried. She starts making calls to friends, people who might have seen Sage. And that's when she connects with Kiara, who tells her about the sighting on Main Street the night before. Aubrey then calls Cookie. And Cookie, the second she hears it, she knows something's wrong. Sage always had her phone on her, always. She also kept a charger with her wherever she went. She responded to calls, she responded to texts. She wasn't the person who just went silent. Now, Cookie tells Aubrey to wait until 10 p.m. that night. If Sage hasn't come home by then, call the police. And Sage doesn't come home. Also, the surprise Thanksgiving visit to her mom's house never happens. Latasha, who'd been texting Sage all day the day before with no response, now gets a call from Dean, Sage's dad, instead, because Cookie is Dean's mom. So,
Okay.
Dean calls Latasha and tells her that Sage is missing. Latasha doesn't tell Sage's stepsisters right away. She doesn't want to scare them, but it doesn't matter. They find out anyways, the way everyone finds out everything now. They see it on Facebook, which is awful.
Rather quick.
Mm-hmm. And just like that, the question shifts from where is Sage to something darker, something that is going to take investigators in this family down a road full of dead ends, half-truths, and one name that keeps coming up over and over again. Aubrey files the missing persons report with the Charlottesville police on November 21st. And officially, the investigation begins on November 22nd, because the 21st is Thanksgiving, and also I don't think she reported it till
10 p.m. that
pretty
night.
late that night. Now, to their credit, police say they were immediately concerned about foul play. They understood the kind of violence that transgender individuals face, and they treated this as serious from the start. At least that's the official line. Because according to Aubrey, they asked for Sage's name, her birthday, and a photo, and that was it. No deep interview, no detailed questions about the night she went missing. She says it took them more than 2 weeks to sit down and formally interview her. And Cookie, she's calling the police department during that first week, trying to get updates, trying to get someone on the phone. She has to leave message after message before anyone calls her back.
So that's interesting because, again, the show I just watched, granted, it was for the cameras, but man, did they answer those cell phone calls right off the bat and speak to the family members.
I mean, cameras.
Yeah.
Let's get more of those shows. So for Sage, from the very beginning, there's this gap between what the department says they're doing and what the family's actually experiencing. And that gap, it's going to get wider. The family doesn't sit around, though, and wait for police to figure it out. Dean, Sage's father, starts his own investigation. The family is able to guess Sage's phone account password and get into her records themselves. And what they find is the first real lead in this case. Sage's last known phone contact, the person she's been talking to and texting with on the evening she disappeared, was someone with an out-of-state number, a number the family didn't recognize. So Dean does what any desperate parent would do. He posts the number on Facebook.
I'm like, I would call.
He was.
Okay.
It wasn't answering.
Interesting.
Yep. And he asks, does anyone know who this belongs to? And within a couple hours, someone responds, which is amazing. A man named Yanni Ortiz reaches out to Dean and says, I know that number. That belongs to a guy named Eric McFadden. And that's the name. That's the person Sage was going to meet on the night of November 20th. And from this moment on, everything in this case starts to orbit around him.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
According to Yanni, he and McFadden had been in contact. They had exchanged texts, emails. They'd met up on multiple occasions. And honestly, I don't know how Yanni saw that post. I don't know if her dad made it public.
Probably made it public. Because back then, I don't think
in it.
2012, I don't know if we had the ability to make stuff private yet. I think everything was public still. So you get enough people commenting on it.
Right.
Or sharing. Well,
maybe.
I don't know if sharing was even then. Yeah. People just probably, because again, 2012, Instagram would have still been super new. So that was really the only social media, and MySpace had already died away. So.
Right. We had Twitter, but.
Yeah. Twitter's still in its, well, not really infancy, but yeah.
Here's the detail, though, that I really don't like. On November 21st, the day after Sage disappeared, the day before anyone even filed a missing persons report, McFadden had contacted Yanni out of nowhere and asked him to delete all of his contact information from his phone.
And that's, again, why? Like, why do you need your friend? And maybe there's something more than friendship there, too.
Right.
I'm like, why do you need to have your info deleted from your friend's phone?
Yeah, and he gave no explanation, just get rid of it. Yanni thought that was weird, but he didn't really think much of it, and he obviously didn't go and do it right away. When he saw Dean's Facebook post, he put it together. So now Dean is digging, and what he finds out is this. Sage and McFadden had met online, most likely through a Craigslist casual encounters ad. They'd been texting and calling each other for weeks. McFadden was about 21 years old at the time, and he was in a relationship with a woman named Esther. He was not out publicly about his sexuality. That was something he was keeping hidden. Also, there was money involved. McFadden had been paying Sage, though it's never been made entirely clear why, whether it was to keep the relationship a secret, whether it was transactional. That part is murky, but money was changing hands, and it sounds like McFadden had a lot to lose.
I mean, if you're using Craigslist casual encounters, that's transactional.
Right.
So that's why there was money being paid. I would have to 95% assume.
And I don't think he wanted his sexuality to come out.
Oh, yeah, no. When it's transactional, that's a business transaction. They're not there to out you.
Right. Yanni gives Dean a picture of McFadden. Dean posted on Facebook. Now, this is important. Dean does not share any of this with the police at this point. He's afraid if he tells them what he's found, they'll shut down what he's been doing. And it's not exactly on the up and up. He also wants to keep digging.
He's using the streets, so that makes sense too. I do love knowing that Dean at first was troubled about his daughter, that he is now giving the energy that any parent should for their child. So I'm loving that.
I love that too. He is running this parallel investigation, and for a little bit, they're ahead of the cops.
Yeah, the streets talk.
Yep. On November 23rd, 3 days after Sage vanished, Yanni connects with McFadden and makes him aware that people are looking for Sage and looking at him. And that's when Eric McFadden runs. On November 24th, Esther, McFadden's girlfriend, calls the police and asks them to do a welfare check on him. She's out of town. She can't reach him. Officers go to their apartment on 14th Street in downtown Charlottesville. No one's home. That same day, Yanni walks into the police department and tells them everything he knows. The relationship, the phone number, the Facebook posts. And when investigators contact McFadden's job, they find out he hasn't shown up to work in 3 days. So now the police know, and they go public with it. They put up flyers around Charlottesville with both Sage's and McFadden's photos and their descriptions. They're saying 2 people that are connected are both missing. With Esther's consent, investigators search the apartment she shared with McFadden. They're looking for anything. Fingerprints, DNA, blood, any sign that Sage had been there. They seize McFadden's computer, and while they're searching the place, they find a receipt from a nearby CVS showing a purchase made on November 22nd. The surveillance footage from the store confirms it. So now we know McFadden was still in Charlottesville, still doing his day-to-day 2 days after Sage disappeared. So they didn't disappear together. Whatever happened to Sage was separate. He also didn't leave town immediately. He left after his image was put on Facebook.
Which, yeah, are you leaving because you've been outed, or are you leaving because you've hurt Sage?
Right.
Yeah.
And that is the question.
Mm-hmm.
On November 25th, McFadden calls Esther from Washington, D.C. He says he needs money. Esther tells him the police want to talk to him, and she gives him their contact information. 2 days later, on November 27th, McFadden calls the Charlottesville Police Department. He's calling this time from New York City. He tells them he went to New York because he's always wanted to visit. There's absolutely no other reason. And on this call, he gives them his first version of events. He confirms that, yes, he had a relationship with Sage. Yes, they'd arranged to meet that evening near the Amtrak station on West Main Street. But he says Sage never showed up. The meeting never happened. He says he didn't leave Charlottesville because he was involved in anything, just left. Investigators ask him to come back, come to Charlottesville, sit down with us, let's talk in person. McFadden promptly hangs up on them. Esther later calls the police and tells them that McFadden had agreed to come back, but only if someone picks him up from the bus station. The police agree, they set it up. McFadden is supposed to board a bus back to Charlottesville. An hour and a half before the bus is scheduled to leave, he emails Esther. He's changed his mind. He's not coming. And I want to stop here and ask you what I think the family was asking themselves in this moment. If you had nothing to do with someone's disappearance, if you had nothing to hide, why would you do any of this? Why would you skip town? Why would you call from a different city every few days? Why would you agree to come back and then bail at the last minute?
That's what. Did you leave because you were outed, or did you leave because you're involved? And this makes me lean more towards outed, at least initially. Although, which again, I can't even begin to understand how LGBTQA, the stress that they live under, when especially when they're not being able to live their authentic selves because of society. And so I would think it would be worse to say I'm involved in a disappearance / homicide versus I'm gay. But I can't speak on that because knowing how in some cultures it's so frowned upon that, again, I could see somebody would think that it's worse to say that they're gay versus that they may have hurt somebody. So this one's tough.
It is.
Because I can see both sides and why he ran.
Also, though, if Dean's putting out this is the last person Sage talked to, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are in a relationship.
Right. Well, and a relationship is a friendship.
Exactly.
You could, obviously, he'd have to tell the police the truth, but I can see he's only 21. Again, that's still very young.
It is.
You're fight or flight, you're going to flee based on, oh my God, I'm going to get found out, versus really thinking logically as you would, I would think, when you're older, where you could say that, like, hey, I can go to the police, tell them the nature of our quote unquote relationship, which was just a friendship, or even go ahead and divulge that it was more. Granted, I assume that if that's all it was and they can now validate that, verify, get cameras from here, you can see me sitting in this restaurant from this time to this time.
Right.
Or check my phone records, that type of thing. That would help. And then they don't necessarily have to, tell people that, oh, by the way, they don't have to out you.
No.
But again, at 21, I don't think you know that.
Right. And if you've never been involved in an investigation or had anything
definitely not going to know
with the police, right? Definitely. In December of 2012, so a couple weeks after Sage went missing, Esther brings the police an email that McFadden sent her. And it is nice that she's cooperating.
Yeah,
And I'm not sure if, to her, he's missing at this point. There is that aspect of, I want him to come back.
Right.
But also, I don't know that she knew Sage or anything like that.
Well, I think And again, I don't know how old she is, but I could see her wanting to help, yes, from his perspective, but also I'm sure she doesn't want to get dragged into this either.
Right.
So she's going to cooperate.
And if they're living together, she probably thinks there's no way he could be involved.
Right.
So,
or even, yes. And then, yeah, because she gave them permission to search the place while she wasn't even there. Like,
So she takes this email, and in the email, he is telling her a completely different version.
Well, that's not good.
Of what happened. This time, he says he did meet up with Sage that night. He says they were walking together on the street. They were approached by a group of people. He says that Sage had, quote, enemies. He says he walked away before anything bad could happen. And
now your credibility has gone out the door.
Yeah, because those are very different stories.
Vastly different.
Yeah. He's not done, though. In that same email, McFadden makes another claim. He says Sage had been blackmailing him, threatening to tell Esther about their relationship unless he paid her. He says he's heading to the Midwest and he apologizes for hurting Esther. And then Eric McFadden disappears. And not like Sage disappeared. Not suddenly, not violently. He just fades. He reaches out to Esther a few more times over the course of 2013, always through throwaway email accounts he abandons after a single use. Investigators aren't able to track them. They can't track his movements. They can't pin him down. And after 2013, even Esther stops hearing from him.
Interesting.
Yeah. The family is watching all of this happen, and they're screaming for answers because to them, this is not complicated. To them, the math is obvious. But here's where the investigation takes a turn that nobody expected, because in 2014, the Charlottesville Police Department announces that Eric McFadden is no longer considered a suspect.
I'm sorry, what?
Yep, you heard that right. Their reasoning, after a more thorough analysis of his digital footprint, they determined his timeline didn't line up with someone who had the opportunity to commit a criminal act that night. They pointed out that McFadden didn't drive. He didn't own a car. He lived in a densely populated area where people would notice something out of the ordinary. In their view, the evidence they had didn't support him as a suspect.
I don't even know what to say.
It's like he couldn't have borrowed a car. He couldn't have had someone help him. You've got hours. His girlfriend's out of town. The family is devastated. And after this, the case went cold. Now, it didn't stay on this line of him not being a suspect forever. 3 years later, in March of 2017, they reversed course. McFadden was redesignated as a person of interest. And this time they framed it differently. They said they were looking at him primarily as a witness, someone who had information critical to understanding what happened that night. Not necessarily that he was the person who did it, but that he absolutely knew something. At the same time, they made another announcement in December of 2016. So about 4 months before they came out and said that about McFadden. The Charlottesville Police Department had officially reclassified Sage Smith's disappearance from a missing persons case to a homicide investigation. So this is 4 years after she had gone missing. They said that they had known longer. They'd waited months to tell the public out of respect for the family. So they're calling it a homicide with no body, no crime scene, no real suspects. But they're now operating under the belief that Sage Smith had been murdered. And the last known person to have contact with her, the man who told 2 different stories, fled the state, had vanished into thin air, and nobody could find him. So while this is all playing out with McFadden, the phone calls, contradictions, his little disappearing act, investigators are also trying to find Sage, like physically find her. And the searches they conducted in those early weeks and months tell you about where they thought this case was headed. The first thing they did was a grid search of Main Street and the surrounding area. Officers walked the blocks near where Sage was last seen. They were checking open lots, dumpsters, trash cans, fields, parking lots. They canvassed every business in the area looking for surveillance footage. And this is where they hit their first wall. Almost none of the businesses had cameras pointed in the right direction. The only camera that could have captured anything was a traffic camera. In 2012, on one of the busiest streets in Charlottesville, near the Amtrak station, near a university, there was essentially no usable video of Sage's movements that night.
I mean, I'm thinking that it's been disappeared anyway because it's been too long.
This was the end of November, beginning of December.
Back in 2012?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least they were investigating.
They were. It feels like a weird
Ish.
order.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, why not talk to Aubrey right away, the one who reported her missing?
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
That's her roommate. That would be somebody that could give you a
Yes.
plethora of information.
Exactly.
Well, and even Shakira, get her back from Norfolk and
Exactly.
interview her.
On November 24th, they expanded the search to Harris Street, where Sage lived, and the area around UVA. 4 days later, they searched the streets and the wooded areas along West Main Street. They widened it to include the area around McFadden's apartment. In December, things escalated. They had 3 major searches that happened in pretty quick succession. The first search brought in officers from the Virginia Department of Emergency Management and also cadaver dogs from the Virginia Search and Rescue Dog Association. They swept the streets near Maine, the area around McFadden's apartment, and some nearby railroad tracks. One of the cadaver dogs gave what they called a slight indication, meaning it picked up on something, but when they followed up, it didn't go anywhere. The second search was a dive team going through a sediment pond in the area, and that came up empty. And the third, this is a big one, was a landfill search. Investigators had consulted a trash expert, and yes, that is a real thing, and determined that garbage from the dumpster behind McFadden's apartment would have been transported to a landfill in Henrico County, about 60 miles outside of Charlottesville, near Richmond. So they organized a massive operation. Charlottesville PD, county officers, forensic teams, hazmat personnel, 2 police dogs, and a retired special agent with extensive experience in landfill searches all participated. Over a dozen people walking through a landfill, sifting through garbage, looking for anything that could help find Sage or any trace of Sage. They found nothing. Now, something that's harder to quantify than search results, but just as important to this story, is the way this investigation was handled, or, depending on who you ask, mishandled. We already talked about how Cookie couldn't get her calls returned in the first week, how Aubrey says it took 2 weeks for police to formally interview her. The roommate, the last person in the apartment, was Sage before she left. 2 weeks. But it goes deeper than that. At some point early in the investigation, someone advised the police department to prevent trash collection from the area around McFadden's apartment. They were advised to secure the dumpsters, preserve whatever might be in there, and the police didn't do it. The trash was collected on schedule, and by the time they thought to trace where it went, well, that's how they ended up at the landfill. Whatever might have been in those dumpsters had been mixed in with tons of other waste from across the city. Not one decision or non-decision haunts this case. The family requested a face-to-face meeting with the police chief to talk about the investigation, to understand what was being done, to feel like they were being heard. That meeting took 9 months to happen.
Wow.
Yep. 9 months of the family calling, pushing, waiting, while their daughter, granddaughter, sister was out there somewhere, and nobody would sit down with them. Cookie and Dean and Sage's sisters, they've all said repeatedly that the department was not open with them, that investigators didn't keep in contact, that they felt like they were fighting for information about their own family member's case. Eventually, a new police chief came in and acknowledged it directly. He told the family that his officers had, in his words, dropped the ball, which I don't think is what you want to hear.
No.
And then there's the question that nobody in this family could avoid asking, the one that sits underneath everything. Would this case have been handled differently if Sage was someone else?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In 2014, a University of Virginia student named Hannah Graham disappeared from Charlottesville. She was 18. She was white. Her case became the largest and most expensive searches in the history of the state of Virginia. The resources, the media coverage, the public response, it was enormous. And it led to a conviction. Sage's family looked at that and felt what a lot of people felt. There's a disparity that Sage's race and her identity as a transgender woman had something to do with the difference in urgency, in resources, in attention. You can agree with that assessment or push back on it, but the feeling was real and it was shared by a lot of people in the Charlottesville community. A petition was eventually started calling on the police department to do several things: keep the investigation active and well-resourced, communicate regularly with Cookie, expand the focus beyond just McFadden, and issue a public apology for the handling of the case, and also insist that the media respect Sage's pronouns and identity. Because even in the coverage of her disappearance, Sage was sometimes misgendered. In the search for her, her identity wasn't always honored.
Which that's wild, knowing she disappeared as a woman. That's what should be on the news. Like, that's how you're going to recognize her from that time frame.
Exactly. It really isn't that hard.
No.
And that tells you something about what this family was up against. They weren't just fighting to find Sage. They were fighting to make sure people saw her, really saw her as who she was. So McFadden's in the wind. The searches have turned up nothing. The investigation has some serious cracks in it, but there's another thread.
So even when they came out and said McFadden was not, 2 years later, when they came out and said he was not a suspect, but he never came back?
Nope.
Okay.
He did not come back even when they said he's not a suspect. Even when they came out and said, okay, person of interest, we just want the information.
Yeah.
Nope.
No, I was thinking when they quote unquote cleared him for a few years.
Yeah.
3.
You would
that
think
he would have
maybe
showed back up again
after 6 months.
Right. So then I'm like, I wonder if he really didn't have ties. Like, he was just there and then he really went back to his real home, because that's crazy that he never came back to what I would assume was his home.
Right.
At 21.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know why he was living there, if that's where he was from, or
just there for college or something.
There, exactly. There's another thread in this case we haven't pulled on yet, and it's one that a lot of people who follow the case have strong feelings about. Let's talk about Aubrey. She was the last person to see Sage before she walked out the door. She's the one who reported her missing, and on the surface, her account is straightforward. She says Sage woke her up, said she was leaving, Aubrey went back to sleep. But things start to get complicated pretty quickly. On December 3rd, 2012, so less than 2 weeks after Sage vanished, Aubrey was caught using Sage's food stamp card at a local convenience store. When police confronted her about it, she said the 3 roommates had always shared their things. They would just leave their cards and take whichever one because they shared food. So they just shared their cards. And it wasn't unusual.
Yeah, but this is now the new month, which means the new benefits have rolled on. So you were using it 2 days after they would have hit.
Right. While she's missing.
Yeah.
It feels...
That feels super gross.
It does. The optics are also not great. You're using your missing friend's government benefits while she's out there somewhere, and everybody's still hoping to find her.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the food stamp card. As time went on, people close to Sage said Aubrey had started using a lot of belongings of Sage's. Her wigs, her clothes, her cosmetics. Really.
Yeah. As in, she's not coming back.
Exactly. That's how they're looking at it.
Yeah.
And whether it really is just 19-year-old, it's here. I would have used it if she was here. I'm just going to keep doing what we do.
No, that would feel weird.
Yeah.
Like, even if one of my roommates went missing, I don't even know if I'd want to touch their things. Like,
no. You would feel like
that would just
it's
be
evidence
weird.
or something.
Yeah, until when you have an answer, and then or now you guys have to leave the apartment because it was Sage's.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm assuming that there was probably Section 8, and so it's under her name. Y'all got to go.
Yeah.
And I wonder, since she invited them to live there, if they were even supposed to be there, because I know generally when you get Section 8, it's not to be handing out with roommates because you're already getting reduced rent.
Oh, that's
and you're not supposed to have other people in there either. It's meant for you. Usually it's you and children, but generally it's meant for you.
I wonder, because it sounds like there were multiple rooms.
Well, or because maybe this housing apartment is also one that the foster care system puts aged out kids in. So maybe that's why she got access to it, because that was just the agreement they had with that apartment complex. It could have been that too.
Right.
Knowing that they have a system to help, that actually makes sense that they have a specific location also.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe it's not Section 8 and reduced housing, and that's just, you can have other roommates in there of your own choosing.
I'm not sure. It is odd, though, to start using all of those things.
Yeah, that's very strange.
Mm-hmm. In 2016, when police re-interviewed Shakira, so Sage's other roommate who had left for Norfolk the morning of November 20th, Shakira told investigators that she didn't think Aubrey was being fully honest. She said she was unsettled by how quickly Aubrey had started using Sage's things. She also said that something about Aubrey's behavior just didn't sit right with her.
And that's interesting that this is the roommate that took off because of tension, and yet you're now feeling like it's weird with the other one.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how long they stayed in their apartment after.
Me too. And also, this re-interview isn't until 3-4 years later.
Yeah.
Did she say that at the beginning?
Right.
What shifted?
Well, probably not, because if they waited 2 weeks to interview Aubrey, who knows when they got around to Shakira, so.
Right, because she wasn't even there. Sage's stepsister backed that up. She told police that Sage and Aubrey had a competitive dynamic. She said that Aubrey was jealous of Sage, and there's nothing wrong with that, but when one of them...
It adds a piece to the puzzle.
It does. It starts to become a little bit more
relevant. Really, are you more friends with Shakira and not Sage because you have this quote unquote competitive,
right?
And it's like, I mean, of course we've all had friends like that where you're like, does it feel like you're always trying to compete with me? And I saw it with friends, like the dynamic of, I told one friend, I said, do you notice that anytime you like a guy, so-and-so also all of a sudden likes them?
Oh.
And it was like uncanny we're talking hours of declare. I'm like, just call somebody out and watch how quickly they also like them.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also don't know exactly how long Aubrey and Sage have been friends.
Yeah.
Because we know
that's what I'm wondering if maybe she's a Shakira friend and Shakira vouched for her. And so Aubrey or Sage was just like, all right, cool.
Right.
Because 3 roommates helps rent a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Now, also, Aubrey had told police that she'd only met McFadden once, briefly in passing on Main Street with Sage, but that turned out not to be true. Police discovered that Aubrey, Sage, and McFadden had all been together the Saturday before November 20th.
So that's interesting. Also,
5 days.
Like, why would you not tell anybody that you'd met this guy that she's supposedly on a date with?
Right. Because if you think he did something to your friend and roommate,
which now does lean back towards what did you do? Because you would be using him as your scapegoat.
Right.
So that's also weird.
It doesn't feel good.
Which, granted, the police didn't interview her for 2 weeks, so she had plenty of time to come up with a story or a version of events.
Right. If for some reason she was involved.
That seems, again, why would you not share this tidbit even 2 weeks later?
Yeah. Investigators pressed her on all of those inconsistencies, also the food stamp card, the meeting she didn't disclose, and they noted that her behavior was, in their words, indicative of someone hiding something. But Aubrey maintained her innocence, and she said she told them everything she knew. And to be very clear, there's no physical evidence linking Aubrey to Sage's disappearance. None. Investigators have not named her as a suspect.
Have any of these people taken lie detector tests?
Not that I found.
This would be a good use of resources with this many people that have questions marks above their head.
Yes. Especially where it's not even like they did something, but like they're still hiding something.
Yeah.
Something else they know, and whether that comes from gossip you're hearing through friend groups, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But none of those questions have ever been resolved. Now, there are two more loose ends that I want to lay out because this case isn't as simple as one person, one theory. So first is Jamel, the guy Sage got into the fight with at Shakira's birthday party the night before she disappeared. And he was reportedly very upset about how the altercation went down, even tweeting what feels like a threat. When investigators tried to look at him more closely, they found that he didn't have an alibi for the night of November 20th. But here's the problem. They haven't been able to properly question him. Like McFadden, Jamel has not been located, which
that's weird.
Is bonkers. And second, and this goes to something McFadden said in an email to Esther, Sage reportedly had past relationships with men who were closeted, men who had a lot to lose if their involvement with Sage became public. In at least one case, they say it got violent. They say that one of Sage's former partners attacked her while she was walking home after his girlfriend found out about them through emails.
Yeah, why would you attack her when your girlfriend found out about that? Doesn't make any sense.
No. This man was eventually cleared. He was incarcerated at the time Sage disappeared, so has an alibi. But it does show you a little bit of the danger that Sage was navigating in her personal life. And remember, McFadden said Sage had enemies. Coming from him, a man whose story changed every time he told it, that claim carries almost no credibility. But the underlying reality that Sage was moving through spaces where secrecy was the currency and exposure was the threat, that part they were able to check out. And it means the list of people who might have had a motive is potentially longer than just these few names.
Which I wonder if Sage told him about, one, was he at her party, the Shakira party? And then two, I wonder if she just told him about what happened at the party. Because that would be how you could get the story about having quote unquote enemies.
Right. And it seems like there's a lot of common friends. So it could have been from her or someone else. I'm not sure. After not very long, the case went cold. There were those occasional updates that we talked about, but years passed. Cookie had more health problems. Dean carried guilt from the time leading up to when Sage disappeared. And Sage's sisters grew up without their sister. And then, 13 years after Sage went missing, something happened that nobody expected. On November 20th, 2025, 13 years to the day since Sage vanished, the Charlottesville Police Department called a press conference. The police chief stands in city space, a venue right on the pedestrian mall, just steps away from where Sage was last seen. And he opens with this. He said, quote, 13 years ago today, Deshad Sage Smith disappeared. The pain of that loss remains as profound as it was in 2012. Sage was someone's child, a friend, a beloved member of the community. Sage deserves answers, and Sage deserves the dignity of the truth. And then he drops it. Detectives have found Eric McFadden. After 13 years, after all of the calls, the throwaway email accounts, his own mother filed a missing persons report because she thought he might be dead.
Wow. So he really went ghost.
He went ghost. There were possible sightings of him in Baltimore and Atlanta and South Carolina and Rochester and the West Coast. After all of it, they found him. He was in Los Angeles. And here's where it gets even more interesting. When detectives located him, he was in the process of attempting to legally change his name, specifically to Shiloh Mathis, a name that, as it turns out, police had already suspected was one of several alibis he'd been using over the years. So the last known person to have contact with Sage, the man who gave the stories and fled, he was found 3,000 miles away trying to legally change his name and become someone else. And it wasn't the first time. Investigators believe McFadden may have already gone by names like Frank Harsgrave and Miles Bakary, 3 different identities on top of his real one. That's not someone who just moved away and started over. That's someone who has been actively, deliberately trying to disappear. Now, of course, there could be reasons a person does that has nothing to do with the case. I'm not going to pretend I know what was going on in his head. But in the context of everything we've walked through, that detail lands like a freight train. Investigators flew to California. They sat down with McFadden and conducted a voluntary hour-long interview. It's like hour-long, 13 years later. Like,
Yeah, that seems
there's
rather
got to be
quick.
more questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had agreed to talk. Whatever he said in that room, we don't know. The details of that interview have not been released. The police are keeping it close. What the police chief did say is that the investigation is, in his words, active and very fluid. Detectives are re-interviewing other persons of interest. They're re-examining existing evidence with new technology and new forensic capabilities that didn't exist in 2012. They're working with regional, state, and federal partners, including the FBI. And the police chief said something that if you've been following this case from the beginning, you would have been waiting 13 years to hear. He said, quote, "We have not forgotten Sage. We will not forget Sage. And we will continue to seek justice with persistence, compassion, and transparency." He then made a direct appeal. And I want to echo it here because this is exactly the kind of thing that has the potential to break the case open. He said, if you have had any contact at all with Eric McFadden since 2012, if you knew him, lived with him, worked with him, or were in any form of a relationship with him, the police want to hear from you, and you can remain anonymous. 13 years is a long time. That's a lot of cities, a lot of jobs, a lot of people that McFadden may have crossed paths with. Police believe he's still in Los Angeles, possibly still using one of those aliases. When a reporter asked the police chief whether they were worried about losing track of him again, his answer was simple. We found him this time. We'll find him. But, I mean, it took a minute.
Yeah, this took a long time.
Yeah. And finding McFadden isn't the same thing as finding Sage. And the people who can bridge that gap might not be in law enforcement at all. Someone out there knows something. Maybe they don't even realize it's important, but it might be. One thing, after Sage disappeared, Cookie started to get strange phone calls. So for months, she received phone calls from a blocked number. They would come in between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. a couple nights a week. And when she answered, because of course she answered every time, because what if it was Sage? What if it was someone who knew something? There was no one on the other end, just silence. Call after call after call. No voice, no explanation. The calls stopped when Cookie lost her phone and had to get a new number. She never found out who was calling or why. And I don't know if that detail means something or if it means nothing, but I know it kept a grandmother up at night, hoping and dreading in equal measure for months on end. Cookie's health has declined severely since Sage's disappearance. She was diagnosed with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and she's undergone triple bypass surgery. She's been carrying this weight, looking for Sage, trying to push for answers for over a decade, And she's still here and she's still waiting. When I first started researching this case, I thought it was going to be a story about disappearance, and it is, but the longer I sit with it, the more I realized it's really a story about what happens when the systems that are supposed to protect people fail them before, during, and after. Through every failure, every dead end, every year of silence, this family never stopped. Cookie never stopped. Dean never stopped. Her stepsisters, stepbrothers never stopped. They've kept Sage's name alive when it would be easier to let it fade, but that's not how this should work. A family shouldn't have to carry an investigation on their backs, and it seems like that's what happened here. And they're still carrying it. Sage Smith was 19 years old when she disappeared. She was described as 5'11", approximately 130 pounds, with black hair, usually worn in braids, and brown eyes. On the night she was last seen, she was wearing a black jacket, dark gray sweatpants, a black scarf, and gray and black rain boots with pink and purple lining. If Sage is alive today, she would be 33 years old. There is a $20,000 reward for information that leads to finding Sage or to an arrest in her case. If you know anything at all, please contact the Charlottesville Police Department at 434-970-3373. You can also email tips or call Crime Stoppers anonymously, and we'll post the email address and all the phone numbers in the show notes. Sage's grandmother said, "We just want our baby back, one way or another." And that's not a woman holding out for a fairy tale. That's a woman who just wants to know, who just wants the truth. After 13 years, that's all this family is asking for. If you're listening to this and you know something, if you crossed paths with Eric McFadden or any of his aliases in any city at any point over the last 13 years, you might be the reason this family finally gets that truth. Don't stay silent. Sage didn't.
That wraps up this episode of Vanished Voices. Thank you for being part of this community and for listening with compassion. For more on today's story, including citations, resources, and further information, visit our blog at vanishedvoicespodcast.com. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at vanishedvoicespod. We'd love to connect with you there. If you valued today's episode, sharing and rating the podcast goes a long way in helping us reach more listeners and elevate these important voices. We're on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, and anywhere else you like to listen to podcasts. And as always, refuse to let these voices vanish.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.